G'day everyone, Alex McKellar here. I'm back again in collaboration with one of the premier skippy racers on the planet in Christian Perez to bring you an English language adaptation of Christian's lap guide for Infinite Racing Services. You can check them out and all the other hot laps, guides and setups they have over at infiniteracings.com, or check them out at all the other places listed on your screen at the moment. For now though, I'll preface this guide with what I usually do in saying that I'm not a driving instructor or a real life racing driver. However, we do have the great benefit of having a lap, one of the world-class skippy drivers to dissect in great detail. This week, of course, we are at RedBull Ring for week 5 of season 1 2022. One thing I wanted to mention this week before we get started is that, as I said, Christian is one of the elite drivers of this category. There are very few people who could put together a lap like we'll be looking at today. The lap time today is a 147.5. In a race last season, this would have been one of the 10 fastest laps set by anyone in all of the races run when we were here last season. It's undrafted and in pretty average-ish conditions. I say that mostly to help remind the likes of you and me that there are levels to this thing, and we shouldn't be put off by the fact that we cannot necessarily do the same lap time, even if we think we're doing things round about the same kind of way. Chances are we're not though, but there's hope. We can do and work on things that we're doing to get a little bit better. And as someone who's looked at Christian's lap guides in the past and done practice sessions chasing his ghost car, I can tell you that setting a goal like being within a second a lap or half a second a lap is a really good goal to set. I can tell you if you're within a half a second of this guy in a race, you'll be very competitive. So hopefully today we can learn a few things, maybe some tips how we can improve our lap times around the RedBull Ring. So let's kick off. Let's have a look at Christian's lap in full before we do anything else. So let's take a look. All right, and there we have it. Let's go back and have a look at the lap in more detail. We'll chuck up some overlays here and see some of the telemetry and whatnots to go with this, which should help us a lot. Okay, so two themes I picked up when going through this one earlier today. Momentum. This is a momentum car, and track usage, making sure we're using all of the track. So right now, we've come out of the final corner. We're heading down the front straight into turn 1, and we're approaching a very, very important corner. Okay, so I say it's a very important corner because whilst this corner is a potential passing opportunity, it is not, the best one. It's actually better from a strategic point of view to be setting up to overtake at turn 3. So the idea here is to maximize the track usage. So you can see Christian's over all the way over to the left hand side. Be very careful though. This is about as far as you want to go to the left because there is a 1x on the outside of the entry, but it does open up turn 1, and you'll see why that's an important in a moment. So as we come in, it's a tough one here. It's not at the 100, it's not at the 50. As the tyres come up, you'll see it's probably around the 80 mark that Christian's starting to lift and brake. You can see it's a fairly heavy braking zone, and we're down only 2 gears from 5th into 3rd. Early on, and certainly in traffic, you might be looking to take 2nd here, but honestly, this is where we talk about momentum because you really want to carry as much speed as you can through this corner, and you'll see how Christian does that in a minute. So what's that, about 80% threshold braking? We're going to turn in just after the 50 board, probably around the 40 mark or 30 or even 45 mark, and watch the trail of the brake here. You can see he doesn't just immediately hop off the brake. It's a trail to keep weight in the front of the tyres, even though it's an uphill braking zone, and just help with the rotation. Now, the next thing I want you to notice is how early we're on the throttle. Full throttle well before the apex of the corner. Very much committed to the exit speed of this corner before we've even got to the apex. What are we about? A car length and a half from the apex there. Very, very important. You can cut this corner a little bit. Christian's running, if I talk a little bit about setup, he's running SPO 5 here, which means the front of the car is as low as it can possibly go. So about here is as much as you want to cut. And in Christian's own words, when he was talking to me about this, any more than this and you're likely to damage the wing, the front wing. And if you are worried about riding the curbs here, perhaps lower the SPO to something like 3 to help with that problem there. As we track through, you can see he didn't lift at any point. And again, this is about as much as you can use on track exit as well, on corner exit, I should say, before you pick up a 1X. And again, with the SPO being at 5, you are still got to be careful with how you ride these bumps. So just a quick refresher, we're braking at about the 80 meter mark, 80% threshold, turning in at just after the 50 board, full throttle well before the apex, cutting not too much of that first corner and tracking all the way out. Now, the idea behind all those things is to maximize your corner exit speed up to the end of this next straight, because this is actually your best passing opportunity here. So again, we're going to move over to the left-hand side, very similar to turn 1. However, again, you've got to be careful of the 1X on the outside. That will invalidate your lap, particularly in quali. That's important, of course. So we've gone past the 100 board, and we're going to brake very hard again in this uphill braking zone. Where was that? Just after the 100 again, probably a bit further this time, probably about the 75 or the 60. 75 or the 70 mark. Again, hard braking, about 80%. Right up to, what's that? After the 50 board there, you can see that painted line or that change in the tarmac is probably where just before there we're turning in. This one's all the way down into first gear, very different type of corner, and hence where you're coming down into this lowest of gears, that's where you're probably going to find your best passing opportunity. So again, we didn't kiss the apex, the apex curbing here on the apex certainly, but again, you can see how early committing to throttle. There's a trail off on the brake to help turn in. You can see as the brake trails off, then commits to full throttle, again, well before the apex of the corner. And that's how you maximize your exit speed. Use the trailing of the brake to help with the rotation of the car, keeping load in the front tires to help them steer. And then once you've got your rotation, commit to full throttle again, ride that curbing on exit as well. So we're approaching the tricky turn 3. It is a possible overtaking opportunity, potentially, depending on how you've ended up out of turn 2. However, it's more likely that you have to be defending depending on how the overtaking went. So this would be a corner, along with the previous one, that I'll be practicing multiple lines, the inside and the outside line, and how you're going to approach it. So we're coming down here in 5th gear, just after the 100 board or thereabouts. We're going to brake. Now, this is the first downhill braking zone. The first 2 corners were uphill braking zones, very different to downhill braking zone, where you've got far more greater potential to lock up the front tires because all the weight's out towards the front of the car. Still, and you can see very much looser under brakes there. See how it counter steering? That's because of the looseness of the rear and in the threshold braking zone downhill, and how much speed Chris is carrying through here. So we're going to turn in around the 50, but you can see a little bit of early turn in there meant that he was still doing a bit of braking as well, and that's unsettled the car. Down into 1st gear, riding that apex, and once again, interesting, it's only a very short shift here into 1st gear. If you listen to it in real time, I think possibly you'd be thinking about taking this in 2nd gear if the car was more settled on entry, and not going down into 1st. See, it was only a really short shift to get it done. There you go. When the power actually comes on, he's in 2nd. So looking to get back on the power around the apex this time in 2nd gear, using again all the track on exit. Now, I'd suggest using 2nd gear through there. However, if you want to use 1st, particularly earlier in the race, very good as well, because it's downhill as well. You're carrying that momentum through that corner. All right, so as we approach the 50 board here, we're looking to spot our apex over on the left, and it's only a pretty light touch on the brake through here just to rotate the car. Now, particularly early on as we come through here down into 3rd, you must be careful on these curbs here. The riding the curbs here is a dicey exercise, and it will cause the rear of the car to step out, particularly in the opening few laps. Now you can see how Christian's just gently bleeding the throttle back on while he's on the curbs and doesn't commit to a full throttle till he's clear of them. And it's for that reason. Okay. And again, flat out, all the track on the entry into the downhill turn 5. So we're going to just down 1 gear, and you can see as the turn in, it's only a very light touch on the brake here again. Just as we approach the service road, just a light touch on the brake, just to rotate the car a fraction, down 1 gear into 3rd. And as we approach the apex here, again, these curbs, not so much of a worry. You can commit to far more throttle when you're on them, but look at the full use of the width of the track here on entry, I should say, in the center of the corner and through the exit as well. Now, here you can see there's very liberal usage of the curbing through turn 6. You can feel free to use all of this green stuff. Any more than this, and certainly if you touch the gravel, you're going to pick up a 1x. Now, as we come in through the final few corners, again, you want to open the track out all the way to the left. And it's as we approach the 75 mark or the 50 mark, you can see we're at about, all the way down just before the 50. We're getting off the gas here and thinking about how we can carry speed through these next couple of corners. In the closing stages of a race, expect to be 2x2 through at least this corner here at turn 7, if not turn 8 as well. The action can get pretty hot through here in the closing stages. It's a legitimate passing opportunity here, but not for every lap. Certainly at the start of a race, you might see people trying to pick up a spot or two, but certainly at the end, expect to be attacked here or doing some attacking here. So again, think about practicing different lines. It is also possible to be on the outside and cut underneath with an over-under if you manage it correctly. So we're going to go down from fourth. We're going to hold fourth through here and looking, oh, sorry. Okay, we're looking to turn in just a small amount of brake, even though it is downhill. Just carry a little bit of the brake to help the car rotate. You're aiming to ride this ripple strip quite a bit, but look how early we're committing to throttle. It's before we even get onto the ripple strip, but full throttle once she's off. And then all this track out here. Now, I actually said to Christian, mate, is that a 1X or not? I don't think I've ever been out this far, but no, confirmed for me this wasn't a 1X, and it is a legitimate use of the track here. So you can see just how wide you can make this track, and the reason you make it that wide is because you can carry more speed through the previous corner. So just remember, you can use all this track here. Now, again, it's tough to sort of spot your reference points here, but it's really as you're approaching the end of the red on the left here, you can see you got the red and white on the outside of the car. As you're approaching the last of the red is where you come onto the brakes. Again, it's only a fairly light brake, maybe 30% at best, down to third gear. Now, you can take more of this apex curb if you want. However, it's not necessary to. And again, full commitment on throttle once we're through the apex. Now, you might say, oh, I could brake a bit more and get on the throttle earlier to maximize exit speed, but the trade-off here potentially is that Christian's carrying more speed through the corner. And again, all the track on exit, and I did confirm this was not a 1X, and you must be careful on exit of this corner as well, because any more than this, and not only will you get a 1X, but you'll pick up a slowdown, and quite a healthy slowdown as well, which will certainly make a nice pain point in the race that you've got. Interesting point here too, I should say, is don't be afraid to use this green section after the ripple strip as well. Just because you're minimizing your steering input and maximizing your momentum, you don't have to get off it. You can just drive on it and slowly move across. Any big movements of the wheel will cost you time. And there you go, folks. That's the lap for this week. Thanks once again to Christian and Infinite Racing Services. It's been great to work with them on this. I'll just get our cameras sorted. There we go. Bit less noise. Thanks again to Christian and Infinite Racing Services. It's been great to work with them. Hopefully this has been of some help for you, and you'll join us again next week when we go through the next track. But until then, I'm Alex McKellar for Infinite Racing Services, and until next time, ciao for now.